Well, Simonds Stadium, this is obviously something new for you guys. First time in, what, 9 years?
Yeah, it's terrific to go there. Obviously similar sort of dimensions in many ways to Patterson Stadium, so it's a ground size that I'm familiar with, but look, exciting for our younger players. We'll have a whole lot of players going down there that haven't played there before, which was similar to 3 or 4 weeks ago when they went to Fremantle and played there. So the more we can put these type of experiences in front of our players, the better they'll be in the long term. So
what do you do with this game? I mean, obviously it's a fair trek from here. Do you guys all go on a bus, or do you go separately? Like, how do you treat this game?
What is it, an hour? It's not too bad. They'll actually carpool, so it's a good opportunity for some of our senior players to spend a little bit more time with some of the younger players. So it's not an interstate trip. So we think we'll be okay with that.
The fact that it is at night, though, I mean, we've only seen 2 interstate teams go down there, and I assume that they stay down there. I mean, does that change planning at all for you guys?
These guys are professional athletes and professional footballers, so night games, playing interstate. We played in New Zealand this year at night on a vastly different ground. They play football, this is what they do, so it's irrelevant where we play, really.
Jason Blake, will he come back in this week?
We'll finalise selection this afternoon, so until then I probably can't answer.
Jaron Geary, how's he?
Look, hopefully he gets through training today. He's obviously down for a test this week. He's had a pretty big workload this year, and playing on opposition high half forwards, he covers an enormous amount of ground. So we rested him last week. We'd be really hopeful he gets through today.
And Dylan, we've obviously spoken a bit about him this week and what happened last weekend. How's he been throughout the week?
He's been good, but he'll have to go through thorough testing this afternoon, and the docs will either give us a green or a red light on that probably a little bit later today.
In your game last week against Port, obviously you sort of talked about the character that you saw of the players to sort of get themselves back from the position they were in. Obviously you didn't get the result that you want. What does that do for that younger group of players sort of going into a tough game against Geelong as well? Does it give them some confidence?
I think if you look over the last 4 or 5 weeks, they had a disappointing, really close loss against West Coast, where they probably weren't rated going into that game to be any chance at all. They then go to Fremantle with a really, really young group, without Nick, without Milne, and it was a really gutsy performance over there, which is not an easy ground to play at. Last week, blown out of the water early, and then to dig in and do what they did in 3 quarters. All of those experiences say something about the group. So I can't wait to go down to Simonds Stadium. It's an incredibly tough ground to win at. They're a great side, but this is exactly the sort of experience that our players are craving and need. We have Hawthorn coming up, we have Sydney coming up, we've got Brisbane away coming up. I want to expose all our young players in particular to these sorts of challenges. Whilst they're tough right at the moment, they're the challenges that will define this group going forward.
Does it surprise you that their ability to come back the way that they have?
No, they're a gutsy group, and I have an enormous amount of faith in their character, in their resilience. I know we're not quite at the point where we're winning the games of footy that we'd like to, but I look at this group with enormous optimism.
What do you need to do against Geelong this week?
Play our brand of footy. We can control our contest, we can control our pressure. We need to be careful and composed with the footy. Any side that panics against Geelong sort of plays into their hands, but we're very respectful of the opposition we play. They're a terrific side, but we're looking forward to the opportunity to play them.
Are there any other new faces we might see this week or next week?
New faces this week. There's 2 or 3 that are probably certainly pushing. I guess Seb Ross I still consider a new face. He's probably played 10 games now and his form's been very good. Sammy Donnell's been probably a little unlucky to be out of the side. We saw Tom Curran last week and we'll persist with Tom. We thought he was good. So there's a number of young players that are either playing or just on the fringe that are challenging for selection. Aaron Sipos is another player that we'd like to get back in the side as well. So they're pushing hard from underneath, which is great.
What about Josh Saunders? How have you seen his development this year since he came? I think his first game was in New Zealand. How have you seen him sort of develop since then?
Yeah, extremely well. Our development coaches deserve a lot of credit for the work they're putting in with a young group. So I look at him and I think he's played in New Zealand. He's now played in Perth. Took a really heavy knock last week in what was a really courageous effort. He'll butter up again, and he gets to play in an area where he grew up, basically down in Geelong. So he's progressing well. We think he's going to be a good player.
Is he the sort of player that will eventually push into the midfield, probably on a full-time basis?
I think so. Maybe he's another Jack Stevens once he gets to the 60-odd games that Jack Stevens is at right now. He's played 5 or 6 games, Josh, and has shown some really tenacious qualities early. Really like the way he goes about it.
What about the NAB Cup? It's been spoken about a little bit recently that there's a whole bunch of proposals that are being considered. From a coaching perspective, what do you think would be the best method put forward?
Best method? Two intra-club games, 2 games against opposition. I don't care what format it is, and then get into the season. It's pretty long and drawn out for the players. So if that's going to be an abridged pre-season now or a shorter pre-season, I'm in support of that.
So you don't think there's any need for the structured format that we've sort of become a little bit used to the past couple of years?
Not to prepare the players for round 1, particularly when the format, with the different types of interchange requirements, it's so dissimilar to what happens in round 1 anyway. In some ways, it was more nuisance value than great preparation. So 3 to 4 games where you're actually playing the same way, the same format, the same type of game that you're going to be playing in round 1 is more than enough.